Hi Vaishali,
Hello.
congratulations on being awarded the Young Alumni Achievers Award.
Thank you.
It's great to be here and with you talking about your achievements. So, what's your journey been like since IIMA?
So, as someone said, the journey is far more important than the destination. And I think over the last 22 years, I've had an incredibly enriching and rewarding journey. So, I joined BCG, Boston Consulting Group, from campus. And I was actually their first female recruit from campus. So, that itself
Interesting.
was a
That's
very
nice.
novel experience. Of course, today it's very different. It's a huge team with a lot of, and the share of women is growing rapidly. But at that time, it was quite novel, and the team was small as well. So everyone had to kind of play a role one or two levels up, and you had to be quite versatile, and you had to manage, the volatility that, some days you had business and some days you didn't. So I think those experiences taught me how to be, well, tenacious. It also taught me to have belief in myself because you didn't have that much network around you, and it really gave you some what I call accelerated learning because you were in such a small team and you had to do so many things. And then I think I made a great decision to move to Singapore as well because I was working in ASEAN in 6 major countries, and they have multiple cultures there. It's a very diverse team as well, and a very wide range of clients. So again, the ability to work across this kind of diversity teaches you a lot, and I think it's been between this and the formative years at the start of my career, I think kind of created that ability for me now to do all the different positions I got to. So whether it was to serve in BCG's Global Executive Committee as the first Indian woman, or lead a major geography, and so on. So I just say that it's been a very enriching and rewarding journey so far.
So you're a senior partner and managing director now,
Yeah.
and you were also part of the EC as well.
Yes.
So, so what was that like? I mean, what was the experience like?
So, first of all, the Global Executive Committee at BCG is responsible for firm wide governance. And in my mind, you really can contribute back to the firm that gave you a lot over the period that I've been there. It gives you a great perspective as well across the world on what's happening and how you shape things. So, it's a unique position to be in. Um, you're also, of course, it's also a feeling of responsibility because you have to serve, the firm to the best of your ability. And then also there's a feeling that you need to role model to be there as an inspiration, hopefully, for many other people to hopefully, continue to follow or actually exceed my footsteps, shall I say.
Were there any other women of Indian origin in the EC before you or since?
No.
No. So you've been a trailblazer there as well.
Pioneer, but hopefully just pioneer means there'll be many more to
Many
come.
more.
So I hope so, certainly. And same for leading a geography.
So has it been more difficult for you or different for you in any way being a woman to achieve what you've achieved?
So many people ask me that question, Anurag, and I'll say different. It's a very good use of the word. Different because I would say 20, 25 years ago, there were fewer women in leadership. So in terms of role models and inspiration, there was not that much around you. There were fewer women in female women. There were fewer women in the organization as well. So when you came for informal mentorship, there was less. There were fewer peers around you, so building those networks as well was more challenging. So you really had to believe in yourself and believe in what you were doing to succeed. I think that's different today, given organizations have realized the importance of diversity, and there's a lot more, I think, of whether it is inspiration of role models, informal mentoring, whether it's, networking. I think there's a lot more today compared to, I would say, 2 decades ago. And I think the last thing probably applies at that time, it applies today, is I think you need an incredibly supportive spouse to do whatever you want to do. But I think that should apply to whether you were male or female.
Right. Uh, so, what changes, what positive and negative changes you've seen since your first stint uh, in for budding leaders, female leaders who want to walk the path that you walked, and what advice would you give them to today?
So, in my mind, leadership and, I think is this the kind of qualities you need is the same whether you're a male or a female. But I think what's changed today, in my mind, is the lens, meaning there is no certain model of leadership that people have in mind anymore, and there are many different models that succeed. So that I think is one good thing that has changed. The second thing that, as I mentioned, is that organizations actually do look at diversity as something important. There's more focus, there's more acceptance, there are more structural interventions as well, and I think that is all enabling women to be far more successful. Of course, they need to have that intrinsic motivation as well. Now, not every organization is perfect, but there are plenty out there that I think can provide the platform for success for women. And so I think that has changed quite a lot. So, in my mind, I think I said it in one of my old interviews, which is there is no ceiling that remains other than the one that you have in your own mind. Uh, and that's how I would characterize it.
And does BCG provide some kind of a platform, or does it create a fostering environment which allows this thing to come up even more?
Absolutely. So this was started, the whole diversity agenda was actually started by our then CEO, Hans Paul, in 2001. And we've put in place both what we call soft interventions and hard interventions. By hard interventions, I mean structural interventions that says that when there are moments of truth that women need to step back, take care of family, how do you support them? How do you encourage them to pursue their career? There are also informal mechanisms like mentorship that is provided actively and managed. So I would say definitely, and of course it's a meritocracy. So in my mind, I think I'm truly appreciative of being in that environment, and I think that gave me the platform to achieve what I have done so far today.
So, among several other leadership roles that you have within BCG, you also lead technology, telecommunications, and media, right? Um, how have you managed to stay ahead of the curve? I mean, because technology is a big disruptor and it's also been a big enabler, but the way and the pace at which things are changing, how do you manage to stay ahead?
It's a good question. So actually, I would say it comes down to, first of all, being curious. By curiosity, I mean going out there, talking to people. It's a big ecosystem, figuring out what's actually happening on the ground, what are the different technologies out there, how do they actually shape things and can be applied. And again, this is not to be the technical expert. I'm never going to be the AI, person who's doing the actual machine learning and so on. But knowing enough to know how it works, where it can be applied, and bringing that business lens to it. So you have to go out there, read, talk to people, be curious. The second thing is you do need to have a consumer focus as well, meaning what are the frictions that are happening in a company with consumers, etc., and where the technology can then be applied as well to make a difference. And last is cross pollination, what you see here and how you can take it to different areas. And that's actually how I've managed to I wouldn't say be ahead of the curve, but at least be able to really understand what's happening, bring that business perspective, and really apply it before it becomes mainstream.
And you also lead the go-to-market strategy for the BCG Southeast Asia region. Um, so, what changes have you seen in companies applying those strategies or what route they are taking? What's the difference now? What are the changes now? Because we've seen the growth engines of the world are shifting east, right? And that trend is set to continue. Is there a specific, very discernible, very distinct set of practices or strategies or methodologies that the companies are applying in this region, which is different from everywhere else?
So if you think of go-to-market, which I look after for emerging markets, I would say that first of all, there's incredible growth in this part of the world. But also, I would say there's a leapfrog happening in the consumers in emerging markets. And what do I mean by that is it's digital first often because, on the mobile rather than on the PC. And that is unlocking a whole range of consumer behaviors that companies need to contend with, which is consumers are being far more digitally savvy. They don't purchase online, but they at least seek information. And how do you address that? Also, I would say the whole analytics and digital tools give you a whole set of enablers that you can use because you have very large sales forces. How can you train them using some of these digital tools? How can you apply analytics to really help with assortment and promotions and all the stuff that you do in the market over a very large dispersed market that emerging markets often are? There are new startups coming up to disrupt the ecosystem as well, and figuring out whether you're going to be, how you can leverage that or how can you partner with some of them. So we call it actually a go-to-market revolution, and I think it's moving at a very fast pace in emerging economies, and therefore companies really need to reorient their strategies to adapt to that.
So you've had a very wide canvas in terms of kinds of assignments that you've taken up, kinds of industries and sectors that you've worked on, and you had an interesting career path as well. I mean, so if you were to distill all your learning into a few words, into something that you could share with with the institute, with the students, or even with the outside world, what would you say are your success mantras? What would you say are your key formulations?
I don't think I have a success mantra per se, but if I had to distill it in a few words, I would say, first of all, challenge yourself, never get too comfortable. The second I'd say is be positive, because there are many ups and downs, but life is a marathon. So you need to have, you need to be positive and you need to have the conviction in what you're doing. And the last one is set your own rules. I actually think that if you love what you're doing and you keep doing it well, you will set your own rules. And I think one can then be a pioneer in so many different ways.
Well, it's great having you here, Vaishali, and congratulations again for the award. And hope to have you back on campus many more times.
Absolutely. I'm grateful for IIMA. I'm grateful for the foundation it gave me and the start to my career. So I certainly hope so to come back frequently. Thank you.